Okay, my name is Pam Hayes, and I have lived in the area my entire life. I'm from Rennes, Georgia, but I've actually lived about 35 miles south of here. But I have lived in Augusta since 1997. Went from Rennes to the University of Georgia in Athens. Was there for 4 to 4.5 years. Go Dogs, and then graduated and moved directly to Augusta. So I've been here since '97.
All right. So, how did you become interested in vintage goods, collectibles, and antiquities?
Okay, so from a very young age, my parents were both antique enthusiasts. I mean, I grew up we had a couple of pieces of antique furniture that always intrigued me. My mom had an antique coffee grinder that sat on our mantelpiece. We kind of had the traditional brick hearth, with the fireplace and the mantle, and there was always a coffee grinder that sat on the end, and it always intrigued me. From the time I noticed it, and remember asking my parents, "What is this thing?" And then we also had an antique secretary, wooden secretary, that my dad he sat down and paid all the bills religiously, and would have to send them off in envelopes with stamps, and he was always that's where he kept the mail and the bills and the stamps, and so all the time my dad was always folding back that lid on that secretary. And so I grew up with that piece of furniture, and that was explained to me, that it was an antique. And we also there's like three main things that I can think of that really probably kind of inspired me and first kind of, piqued my interest with antiques. The third thing is an antique Civil War era ginger bottle. And my mother kept it in the kitchen, kind of sitting on the kitchen counter, and then that was explained to me that hey, this bottle's so neat, where did this come from? And it actually, my parents found it in a really old barn that was the great aunt of my father, and they actually got it out of that barn. And so those three things kind of like, I don't know, I was just always intrigued by those. And then probably I really caught the fever when I was I'll say about 12 to 14. My dad took me to my first real antique auction, a state auction, and that's where I really caught the fever, was in the auction environment.
All right. So, what made you decide to grow that intriguingness and then want to start your own business?
Well, it started out. So this business is kind of, I always say it's kind of like a disease. It's like a fever. Like once you catch the picking and the hunt, you're on the hunt for that next great thing. It's kind of like a disease, and like once it gets in your blood, it's just, you have this passion for it. So of course, from 12 to 14, I never lost that passion. I, consistently, like, this was my hobby in college, like every free minute after class, on the weekends when I didn't come home, I'd get in the car and I'd ride and try to find like that next junk store, that next thrift store, looking for that next thing, where I was
like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, like a treasure hunt, like where I was going to walk into like this thrift store where, 90%, 95%, or 99% of the things are going to be modern, but there's going to be that one, vintage antique thing. So I did that throughout, my adulthood after college. It basically was just a true collector, and I had amassed this major collection, almost like a cracker, if you could imagine a Cracker Barrel throwing up at my house, like that's what it was. I had signs, I had old farm implements, I had tins and boxes, and just anything and everything vintage and antique. And to the point where, I thought, kind of starting to get a little too much for me to handle. Why not kind of turn this into a business? Because my dad always said, his dream job was, he wanted to be a Cracker Barrel picker. He was like, if this was my job, I would just, feel like I had hit the lottery. So, that kind of planted a seed in my head, and I thought, well, what can I do with this? So, Tracy and Jan Scholler, the Schollers, have been very good to me as far as, starting this as a business. They gave me the opportunity to decorate the Wild Wing Cafe when it opened on Washington Road. So it started out kind of doing decor, what I call decor packages for, I started out with the shoulders and did that. And so that kind of turned into, hey, if we can do this and decorate a restaurant, what if we had a store? Because I'd already, done eBay and tinkered with eBay, and I thought, what if we actually had a store? And so that's just it just all fell into place.
So what's the story behind the name Mima Had One?
Okay, so Mima had one. So my Mima was very, very near and dear to me. She's probably one of the closest people that, my entire family growing up. We were super close. And so before she even passed away, back when I first started doing the decor packages, I was kind of looking for a name. And one of the sort of phrases that we always hear, sort of colloquial phrase in the business, we have people coming in, meandering around, wandering around, and, inevitably somebody's going to pick up that item and they're going to say, oh man, my grandma had one of these. Oh, I remember Granny had one of these, or whatever there's so many names out there that people call their grandparents. Well, mine was Mima, and it just seemed to be sort of a more southern, just sort of a
feel-good
traditional feel-good name, rather than grandma or granny. Those kind of seem a little, bland, I guess, or traditional. And Mima just seems more, it was very personal for me, of course. So that we just went with, Mima Had One. And everybody seemed to love the name, and we have people coming in saying, oh, I'm a Mima, that's what my grandkids call me. So yeah, it stuck and people seemed to like it. So it was just kind of a no-brainer.
Alright, so how does having your own business affect your everyday life?
So having your own business, while I do feel like, at times, it can't all be rainbows and unicorns all the time. It can be a bit stressful, because it is a business. So you still have, the financial aspects of it. We still have bills to pay here, mortgage or rent or, utilities. So there's still that business and taxes, and making sure we're, in compliance with, we've got business license, and making sure we're, in compliance with all the codes and things of that nature. So there's a lot of the business, corporate, behind the scenes stuff that has to go on, which is, a little bit of stress there, but it's extremely rewarding, of course. I'm my own boss, basically. I do have a business partner, but, it's extremely rewarding. What was the actual question? I'm sorry. I got...
How does it affect your everyday life?
Oh, how does it affect your everyday life? Okay, so, most busy, busy from actually, having to find the inventory and put the inventory out, and to cleaning everything, because a lot of times we get stuff from old barns, and we a lot of times just can't bring it in here and set it down because it'll be covered in a 50
Dirt.
years 80 years worth of dust that's been sitting in a barn. So there's a lot of physical labor involved that impacts the daily life. Just again the actual financials that are involved, but and then again staying on top of our social media. It's kind of like a 24, being a business for yourself it's a 24-hour 365 job,
Right.
but in a good way.
Of course. So what was the hardest part about establishing Mima Had One?
The hardest part about it, probably just the fear, overcoming the fear of taking that leap and making, because they always say, it's not just cliche, it's not just a corny saying, you got to spend money to make money. So taking that initial leap to actually make the investment, we actually started out in a little tiny spot over on Bobby Jones Expressway in probably a spot no bigger than these two rooms, in a little tiny strip mall, across from the Walmart shopping center on Bobby Jones. Taking just that initial leap to, agreeing, being contractually bound to a lease, and, not knowing,
Is someone gonna walk through the door?
Are we even gonna get any customers? Are people gonna look at our merchandise and laugh and think we're a cheesy little stupid store? Just overcoming that fear of taking the leap to even get started. was probably the most difficult thing.
So what's been the most rewarding part of New Moms?
I would say hands down the most rewarding part of this job is the customers, the interaction with the people that support us and follow us on Facebook, and yeah, and just getting to share, and not only the customers but the other dealers as well. I have a few dealers that I'm friends with that I actually, I really really trust their opinions, and their, a lot of times there'll be an item where I don't know what it is, and I'm like, I kind of have, like right now I have a badge. I have this badge, and I'm pretty sure it's Civil War to before and pre-Civil War, but I can't nail down. Like, I've never seen a badge like this. It's not a typical badge. This is something that would have been like hammered into wood because there's these thick prongs on the back, and I'm like, so I'll go consult a couple of my dealers that I really trust, and I'm like, hey, have you ever seen anything like this? Like, so it's the people, hands down, the relationships with the people, whether it's a customer, a dealer of ours, a dealer that's no longer here that I just know on the outside. Yeah, it's hand down just the people and people that share this passion. And it might be people that aren't even necessarily antique enthusiasts. They just enjoy coming in on a Saturday and getting away from home and having something to do. And that's what we just want. Like, I don't care if people come in here and don't spend a penny. If they come in here and they enjoy just getting out of the house, and maybe it's somebody that brings their grandson, or it's somebody that brings their parents, or it's just a couple that's looking for something to do on a Saturday. I don't care if you spend a dime. I want you to come here and enjoy it, enjoy looking at things, maybe finding out an item that you've never seen before, or just reminiscing. That's what fills my heart.
So what's a challenge that you might still face with the store?
Probably one challenge is from a buyer perspective. One of the challenges I'll have to say is the internet and reality TV shows. So the internet, eBay, and reality TV shows have kind of skewed, or can, not always, but it can skew what someone feels like the value of an item is. And a lot of times, like, we try to be super affordable here. But a lot of times, we'll get, as a buyer, like, we get people every day coming in trying to sell us stuff, and their first, go to, oh, well, this was, and it might be an item I want to buy, hey, well, what do you want for it? And they tell, oh, well, it's like $200 on eBay, or, I saw this on American Pickers and they said it was worth $500. I mean, an item is only worth what a buyer will pay you for it.
Exactly.
So, that's one challenge is I feel like society has kind of gotten skewed as to the value of items. And eBay really changed that too, because used to, pre-eBay, items did have more value because it's supply and demand. There was no internet, so there was no eBay where you could go look and there's 5 of them on there.
Right, so if there's not one in your area, then...
Exactly. If there wasn't one physically that you knew you could go buy, supply and demand. So that's one challenge. The other challenge, probably, and it's a good challenge, probably just trying to keep up, especially with the, and this is specifically with the online live sales that we do on Thursdays, is just trying to keep up with merchandise that would interest people enough, or, that, because I feel like, I want people to buy on Thursdays, and if we've been doing them quite frequently, I mean, people can't just go on there and spend, so, but I feel like if we have $8, $10, $12, maybe even $20 items, people can afford it, and they don't mind spending that. But trying to find and keep up with new items to put on Thursdays, that's kind of been a more recent challenge.
Right, since you've grown so much and everyone's
right.
demanding, like, oh, we want to see
yeah,
these lives.
Exactly.
So how has owning a business changed you as a person?
Owning a business has changed me as a person, hopefully for the better. I've tried to be more patient and more understanding, and that's probably more so with the social media aspect. Like for instance, we may run an ad or something, about, hey, come to me, I had one, we have vintage clothing. And then we'll get a message from somebody, hey, are you a store? Where are you located? If they just go to our page, it says on there where we're located. You know what I mean? So I've had to kind of, because I feel like maybe I am a little bit more technologically advanced than some people, because I've been sitting behind a computer since 1997, literally. That's what I do for a living. So yeah, just people not being as, I guess, socially inclined. It's like, hey, just click on our page and I'll tell you exactly where we are. So I've had to get a little, be patient and understanding that people, there's a little bit of a learning curve there for technology for some people. Definitely, I've always tried to stay humble. It makes you hustle. You have to stay on the ball. It's constantly, whether you're answering, Facebook questions, or trying to find new merchandise, or, even trying, like, the new stuff, trying to curate, the merchandise for our store. It's made me hustle for sure.
So how has the coronavirus pandemic changed the way that you operate, and what has been the result on your
Great
business?
question. I feel like we have been truly, truly blessed. I can't even explain the amount of support that we've had through the pandemic. It was, the pandemic has been something like, that none of us alive today even, could remotely begin. Like, if you'd have told us something like this was going to happen, like, we would have all been like, wait, what? Everybody's got to shut down. So we had to evaluate, like, it made us rethink our business model, number one, rather than just being a brick and mortar. What can we do? So, it made us think outside the box, figure out, how can we reach out to people, still be able for them to shop, and, in a safe manner, and us still make money. So, I don't understand why we weren't doing it before COVID, but, it's like a little light went off over COVID, and we did it, and everybody's like, don't stop doing it, even when you reopen. We reopened the doors. We still are, like, extremely busy, operating as a general retail, but the live sales, they're still going
I
strong.
look forward to them every week.
Yeah, they're still going strong. We've just been blessed. All I can say is, it's just, it's a blessing from God.
So what is something that surprised you when you opened your own business?
Probably the most surprising thing was I didn't just immediately open my business and make bukus of money. Like, I feel like there's a little misconception out there that people who own their own businesses are rich, or people who own their own businesses, are, wealthy. It's not that way. We're blessed. I have a roof over my head, a car to drive, food to eat, and, I have my needs. I'm not a very, I'd say, materialistic, I'm more of a necessity-based person versus a luxury-based person. But so that's probably, yeah, it's, I didn't just open my business and poof, like, money just started flowing in.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think that.
Like, did you just open it and bam, you got
Yeah,
money,
they just
but
think,
it's
like,
a give
oh,
and
she
take
owns
thing.
her own business.
You make
know,
money
like,
and you have to put it back
exactly. Yeah, you have to spend money to make money. So yeah, the money that comes in, while there might be a little bit of profit, enough to, like, buy a cheeseburger for lunch that day and maybe pay a bill, for the most part, a lot of it just goes right back into other merchandise.
It's something that you love.
Right.
So you're not gonna be as concerned about, let me make all these profits.
Right,
profits.
exactly.
So,
So yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it.
when you were a child, did you ever think about opening up a store? Like,
I
this
did
been your
not.
dream?
I never. So I grew up in a, you know, I would say lower middle class. You know, my dad worked at Easy Go Textron for like 40 years. My mom had little odds and end jobs. She worked at Atwell Pecan. I mean, you know, they made a living. They scraped by. You know, we by no means like were. I mean, I would say we were the low end of middle class. You know, my parents paid their bills, and we had a little bit of money left over to, you know, maybe get a toy at the dollar store or something. You know, I mean, so yeah, I never dreamed. You know, I always knew, and my parents always instilled in me, you know, do better than we did. Yeah, and I never dreamed that I would. I mean, I always thought that it was always my goal to be successful in whatever I did. And I've been blessed even with, you know, in utilizing my degree from the University of Georgia. You know, since day one, I've utilized that degree. That's what I've been doing. That and then the hobby side of it that turned into a business. So I've been extremely blessed that way, but I never dreamt that I would financially be able to
have a store and it be something that you love.
Right. Yeah. It really honestly never crossed my mind.
So if you could start over again, is there anything that you might have done differently?
Like meaning this business aspect. That's a great question. Probably if I could go back and start over, it would probably be like getting more socially with the social media, getting involved heavily with that sooner, and maybe starting the live sales sooner. I do have a vision for what I want to do now that I will have more time to devote to the store. I still have a vision of things that I want to implement.
Right, and that was my next question of what's your goal for Mima's in the future?
Okay, yeah. So I will be devoting more time to Mima's, and I have lots of goals involving educational type. Most of them involve social media, but like I would like to start doing, you know, like an item of the day. I would like to start doing a weekly educational post, kind of like, not necessarily like, you know, posting an item like, do you know what this is? Because I feel like there are already, in this industry, there are already some people who do that. But this would be more kind of like a, you know, like, maybe like more educational, like, you know, how to identify the age of something based on the nails that are used to put it together.
Right,
you know,
so if I was sitting at home thinking, well, hey, maybe I want to get into this junkin thing.
Right. And what would you look for? Yeah. So like there's a thing called rosehead nails, and they were hand forged. And, you know, you can date a piece if a piece is put together, you know, with rosehead nails. And, you know, the fact that, you know, those iron nails leave black. If you ever look at something that's put together with nails and there's a lot of black around the holes, that's the iron seeping out of the nails. And you can kind of date a piece is really old if there's a lot of them. So just things like that. So that's kind of I have a lot of things that I want to implement. We're currently working on a cookbook that we want to put together. That's kind of a we want to honor the past and the simple ways of life. You know, nobody nowadays really needs a cookbook because you can just whip out your phone and Google a recipe. But it's like, let's get back to our roots and our heritage. And, you know, Mima didn't have a phone to Google to look up a recipe. And so it's, you know, we want to honor our ancestors and our past and get back to tradition. And that's what this business is all about. So it's kind of a contrast for us. Yes, we're beefing up social media and doing all these technology things, but I'm going to do a printed cookbook, you know? So that's kind of my vision. I have like all these creative ideas of things that I want to do to promote Mimas and things to sell and things to get people involved. And so, yeah, hopefully good things are going to be coming.
All right, so my last question is, how do you want someone who has visited Mimas for the first time to feel after they leave?
I want somebody who has visited Mimas for the very first time to feel, first of all, welcomed when they walked in, and feel excited when they look around, like, ooh, this is my kind of place. I can't wait to just take my time and walk through here and see everything, because we have a lot of stuff here. And people who have people who are OCD and who are like manic about being, you know, organized and not a lot of clutter, like probably would have a panic attack when they walked in here. But yeah, I want people to feel like they took a step back in time and like they feel comfortable and warm and inviting, and to definitely come back. Even if you didn't see a single thing that you want to buy, I want you to feel like, hey, this is my kind of place. I want to come back and take a look in 3 weeks or a month and see what I might have missed, or see what, hey, wonder what Mima's got in new, or, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But definitely I want you to have a good time. Like the money, like if you see something, great. If not, I want people to just come to Mima's and say, I had a great day. I had a great Saturday looking around at Mima's, or we had a great Sunday after church. We went to Mima's, after lunch, and we just spent, an hour and a half just walking around that place. That's how I want people to feel.
All right. Well, those are all the questions we have. So, anybody watching this, if they want to come to Mima's, any last words here?
Yes, please. If you have not checked out Mima's, please come check us out. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely our Facebooks. We do Thursday night live sales. We have a little bit of old, new. We never know what we're going to put up there. So definitely check us out, follow us, and peace, love, and junk.
All right.